Hey, soldiers, look, I don't need to tell you. You feel it. You go to the grocery store, you're out there pumping gas, and you know that the cost of living, it's just become downright oppressive. Well, we got some numbers to back that up. 57% of Americans right now cannot afford a $1,000 emergency expense. Now, we've heard that kind of thing before. Oh, well, this many Americans can't afford this or that. But today, it's coupled with extraordinarily high prices in essentials like food, energy, housing. We're not talking about the latest Corvette went up 10 grand. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about food for your family. Okay. And sure, a variety of issues have come into confluence to create the situation. Egg shortage. Okay. Bird flu. So there you go. Now, the price of a dozen of eggs is through the roof. And on top of just, the inflation in the food sector to begin with. I tell you all the time, I feel so sorry for these seniors. They're on fixed incomes. They're not able to, increase their income like someone younger can. The other thing about the senior set is a lot of them are not comfortable with technology. So there is a YouTube channel that I watch called Feature Man. It's an older gentleman. And it's just, he goes through little episodes in his life, what he's eating, some of his experiences. It's very entertaining. But he's rare on YouTube, okay? An older gentleman who he's monetized, I'm sure. And is probably making a good deal of money because he's got a great amount of subscribers and views. But he is not the norm in terms of, seniors. So they're on these fixed incomes and they're faced with medication, housing, and food. And it's just draining them. The situation is becoming untenable. There are things we could do about it, and we're going to talk about a couple of those in a minute. But from Zero Hedge, I don't have to tell you that your money doesn't go as far as it once did. You see it every time you go shopping. Our so-called leaders have flooded the system with money and pursued highly inflationary policies for years, and now we're all paying the price. And let's be fair. We, the American people, we vote these people in. They don't just take office, okay? So when we see them deviating and we don't vote them out simply because they come to our church and hum a few bars of a Negro spiritual or kiss a few babies or do a square dance at the, local town fair, that's all it takes for most Americans to keep voting for the same people and the same policies. Now the chickens have come home to roost, all right? And the free ride is over. Plus, we're facing other countries looking at the dollar and saying, hey, maybe it's not the only game in town. And we've gone over that in great detail, how that's going to actually curtail a lot of our government spending as we move forward toward the mid-2030s. The cost of living has been rising much faster than our incomes have. And this is systematically destroying the middle class, especially when that middle class has to rely on credit more and more. And they're not paying off the whole shebang in the 30-day cycle. They're actually paying the minimum, okay, to be able to go to the grocery store and afford the same amount of food. Again, the reason being because wages are not rising as fast as inflation. And there's speculation that the Fed might be about to slow down on these rate hikes. So their commitment to lowering inflation is far less strident than their commitment to have Wall Street doing well again. And look, I'm not a critic of Wall Street. As I always say, we are Wall Street. You got an IRA, 401k, you got a permanent insurance policy, 403b, you're Wall Street. Survey after survey has shown that a solid majority of the population is living paycheck to paycheck. And at this point, most U.S. consumers, they're simply tapped out. In fact, one brand new survey just discovered that 57% of Americans cannot even afford to pay a $1,000 emergency expense. According to Bankrate's annual emergency fund report, 68% of people are worried they wouldn't be able to cover their living expenses for just 1 month if they lost their primary source of income. Here it comes. Okay, church is in session. That is why we need multiple streams of income. I'm going to read that again. Say amen, somebody. According to Bankrate's annual emergency fund report, 68%, let's round it off, 70% of people here in America are worried that they wouldn't be able to cover their living expenses for just 1 month if they lost their primary source of income. And when push comes to shove, the majority, 60% of Americans, 57 to be exact, are currently unable to afford a $1,000 emergency expense. When broken down by Generation Z, 85% of them are in this situation. Millennials, almost 80%, are more likely to be worried about covering an emergency expense. These numbers are quite ominous because they clearly demonstrate that we are completely and utterly unprepared for any sort of major economic downturn. And imagine that. Imagine if we did have a major recession and people lost jobs, in a greater degree than jobs are being lost now. Check out our report we did on the lost jobs over at Google. What would people do? And thanks to rapidly rising cost of living, we are losing even more ground with each passing month. So we're not even treading water, guys. We're drowning, okay, as a nation here. As a middle class, is it possible they're trying to tamp down consumption to save the planet? Is that what it's all about? So they're going to get to fly around in private jets and eat steak, you eat bugs, and travel on an overcrowded bus like the ones they have down in Cuba, El Camino, in order to save the planet while they get to, continue to be uber wealthy, destroy the middle class. Is that the design? Another survey that was recently released found that earnings are falling behind the cost of living for 72% of middle class families. Nearly 3/4 or 72% of middle income families say their earnings are falling behind the cost of living, up from 68% a year ago, according to a separate report by Primerica based on a survey of households with incomes between $30,000 and $100,000. A similar share, 74%, said they are unable to save for their future, up from 66% a year ago. So the bad news is increasing. The middle class is being squeezed year after year into oblivion. And the author is also stating that, hey, he walked into a Walmart surprised by the high prices. I was kind of surprised at that too when I made my monthly trip into Walmart. It was a little high. And I try to remain sensitive to this kind of stuff, guys, because it's just me and my wife, right? But I have friends. I have one buddy, he has 2 kids and a dog. And we were joking around, and I said, hey, man, I know you guys are feeling it. Because when we go to the grocery store, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Just me and my wife, we like to cook recipes and things. Usually, I'm paying any attention to what whatever it says, boom, okay, we pay for it. And I'm not saying that because we're, the rich. No, it's just that that's our little thing, okay? We some folk like to go out. Some people like, lavish vacations. We like culinary arts, okay? But the last time I went over to the supermarket, I said, whoa, I didn't get a lot. And this is a hell of a price tag. In all seriousness, guys, food prices are going to continue to go up. In fact, the CEO of Unilever recently said that his company has, quote, been accelerating the rate of price increases that we've had to put into the market, unquote. For the last 18 months, we've seen extraordinary input price pressure. It runs across petrochemical-derived products, agricultural-derived products, energy, transport, logistics, he said. It's been feeding through for quite some time now, and we've been accelerating the rate of price increases that we've had to put out into the market. So it all trickles downhill, right? The Democrats say trickle-down economics does not exist. Well, here's some trickle-down economics for you. Now, the CEO of Unilever, he also said that, hey, guess what? There's more inflationary pressure to come. All right, guys. So look, let's talk about how we need to fight back on this. First of all, we got to reject America's consumer culture. Okay, it's not working for us. All right, sure. The new vet looks nice. Sure, red bottom shoes make a statement. Okay, whatever. We gotta push back on this. And look, we're a small community. Most people are still trapped in the matrix of consumerism. We got to break them out to the extent that we can. It starts with your family, your close friends. What matters is the purchase of assets. And one of the assets you might want to take a look at is a piece of property where you can locate several members of your family. Now, I talked to you guys a while back about a project I'm working on in that vein. I also know another good friend of mine. It's a pretty big home, nice plot of land. And there are 2 generations, well, actually 3 generations living in that nice big house, okay? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I love that. I actually love that. Some of the best times in my life were when there were 3 generations living at my grandmother's house. Again, grandmother and grandfather's house, okay? That's how we made it work at one point in my life. Now, look, you got to have the type of family that you can do this with. Otherwise, you might wind up in another type of house. Government-funded housing, okay? You know what I mean? But I think we need to get back to that kind of thing. Reject consumerism. It's not working for us. It's only leading us down a primrose path of acquiring liabilities, when what we should be doing is acquiring assets. Again, assets like land, a house where you can locate your family in, where you can share resources, where you can share expenses in order to buy more assets. You can have more money to buy more assets. We need to get back to that sort of community. I know here in America, there's a full-on attack against the concept of the traditional family. Well, push back, okay? Don't let these bastards, take you down this road and resign your whole family and generations to come to this subsistence type of existence. Rob them of it. And look, I don't have cable TV. Got rid of that years ago. It's been more than a decade now. I drive a car that is not flashy. Okay, my wife, same thing. We're modest people in that respect. We like to eat. I just finished telling you that. And we like to cultivate our businesses. We like to look at this project that I'm going to tell you more about as the months go on, in terms of being able to have a community of like-minded people, our family, in a place where we can retreat to, okay, in a place where we can share the resources, where we can share the expenses, all right? That's what we're all about. So sit down with your family. Talk about it, okay? Talk about a way out of this mess that we're in. But the first thing we're going to have to do is change some personal paradigms. That begins with rejecting consumer culture and looking very, very hard at these politicians you're electing. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. They're both, by and large, both parties are, 2 different wings of the same dirty, dirty bird. If you're from Baltimore, you know what I mean when I say a Lexington market pigeon is what these politicians remind me of. All right, guys, listen. I want you to take a look at this video. Now, it didn't get a lot of play. I don't care about that. I want you to watch it because I think there's value here. It's about multiple streams of income, some ideas you might want to entertain in order to make some more money, okay? So you can put some more food on the table, more assets in your asset column, all right? Assets that are going to go out and work for you like these rich people do every day of the week, okay? So you won't have to worry about one sole source of income. Guys, I will talk to you soon.